How's it going, everybody? And welcome to this next installment of the Stupid Questions podcast. Today on the docket, we have Nicole. I already forgot how to say her name. It's Nicole Falcaro. I think if you pronounce it correctly in Italian from her grandparents' ethnic background, or I guess her ethnic background, it is Falcaro. She is a professional triathlete, also a full time working woman. She works with Citibank. I forget exactly what her title would be, but she is a mathematician, so she deals a lot in um, product management and like feature development for the different apps and customer facing products that company has, the bank has. It's really neat to hear her story and how she was involved with startups, how she was a dog walker for part of her career, and how that was connected to helping her become kind of a breakthrough professional triathlete and have that be manifested and work out. She is getting better and better in all she's doing, so look forward to following her along. But without further ado, Nicole Falcaro. Well, great. Well, Nicole, thank you so much for jumping on the podcast. The first thing I really need to ask is I'm gonna just say your last name and tell me if I completely butcher it. Is it Falcaro or Falcaro?
Okay, it's definitely not Falcaro, but I will say this is like I've had this question in other podcasts. It's I say Falcaro,
Okay,
but like it's Italian, so I'm supposed to be saying Falcaro.
Falcaro. Okay, nice.
Yeah. So you're not wrong either way, but more common is Falcaro.
For sure. Okay. Is your, like, how many generations do we have to go back before we get to Italy?
Just my grandparents.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
Where are they from?
Um think Sicily. It's like really bad that I don't know for sure.
Sure. Have you done the 23andMe thing?
I have not. I'm not private about a lot of things, but I do feel weird about some random private company having all of my
All your
like genetic data.
information. Yeah. No, that's fair. That's totally fair. The reason I did it is because I got it for basically for free, which maybe isn't that good of a reason, but I was expecting to have a high percentage of Italian blood because my great grandparents, yeah, my great grandparents are full Italian, but I only have like 5% apparently in my blood. Most everything else from my dad's side, I guess, over in UK area. So I was a little bummed about that.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Didn't expect that.
Yeah, I always was under the impression that it kind of splits up 50-50 for each parent, but I guess some are more
Yeah.
dominant in the way that genes are carried over. So, yeah, who knows? But cool. So, who is Nicole? If you were to introduce yourself to someone new and and they're like, "Hey, my name is Seth. What's your name and who are you?"
So answering in third person and with the theme,
Mm-hmm.
I Nicole is a uh, a very ambitious person who is competing in the professional triathlete category. Notice I didn't say I am a professional triathlete
Mm-hmm.
because I guess I am, but I've already switched to first person, so let's just go with that.
Okay.
But I don't make a living off of it. Most of my time is spent, I'd say, to be fair, maybe 30 to 35 hours a week working at my full time job. Hopefully, they don't listen to this because I think I'm supposed to work 40. But I take the generous lunch break, and I work at Citibank as a digital product manager. What the heck does that mean? It means that I decide from a business standpoint what it makes the most sense for a development team to be working on.
Okay.
And I translate those business requirements into what we call user stories. That basically says, okay, let's go build this feature, this product. And where I focus on is search and self service and features for the website and the apps for Citibank.
Okay, sweet. So we're going to touch on those things because I'm going to kind of follow a little bit of a chronological order. So I do want to get into those things and then your other, I guess, happenings before Citibank. But growing up, what was Nicole like? Was she high energy, always running? Parents are kicking you into sports to kind of get rid of that energy, or what kind of kid were you?
Yeah, I'm grateful I grew up in a really rural area, so it was very unsupervised. And anytime I wanted to I wouldn't say I was super energetic. I was very bookish and very, into completing my homework. I would stay up really late, still doing work,
Wow.
because after school was all about sports.
Mm-hmm.
And from the age of, I'd say my first sport was Little League. So
Like
I,
baseball?
yep, playing baseball with the boys, which looking back was really great because I feel like I was athletic and I didn't want to be just like doing the girl sports.
Mm-hmm.
So it was nice to be in like a co-ed sport where my dad was the Little League coach. That was great. So a very supportive household for athletics. My parents were not athletes themselves. However, they were super supportive of it. And then my
Sure.
first endurance sport was swimming when I was 8. That was just a summer thing. I wasn't in like any super intense year-round swimming program by any means, which is probably why my shoulders don't hurt to this day. Unlike a lot of other summers, I could feel like I could do a lot of yardage and not really feel any different. So
Sure.
yeah,
That's really neat. So how many yards are you swimming a week then?
not enough because I'm still not a great swimmer, but I'm about 15 to 18,000.
Okay, yeah, that's not bad.
Yeah.
Sweet. That's actually really rare. I've never heard of anyone's shoulders not being sore. I mean, I guess from swimming in the pool you can build that up, but for me, usually first time in the wetsuit, it's like you always got to kind of get used to that rotational
Yeah.
pull and yeah.
I still get that actually. The first 5 minutes, I'm like, wow, like something's not fitting right. And then it just seems to stretch out a little bit. And after
Mm,
5 minutes, I always do a shoulder wetsuit adjustment.
yeah. What I've started doing actually for races too is my buddy works for a chemical company that makes the like Gold Bond, but they're I don't know that body butter stuff.
Oh,
I
yeah.
layer that stuff all around my chest and shoulders, and now it never bothers me whenever I race. So I don't know if that would help, but
Oh, because it's
it's
not like clinging on to anything else in your
yeah, it's
chest.
just like under the tri suit because then it allows it to kind of move. I don't know if you take off your tri suit. I guess women can't really do it, or no, some women do because they have like a sports bra or something on it.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
give it a shot.
Yeah, I wear the full tri-suit underneath, and I feel like just recently I'm watching all these races where they're pulling up their tri-suits, and I'm like, even my swim skin has sleeves, so it covers that. So I'm a little incredulous about the pulling the tri-suit down, and then having to pull it up again. Like it's enough for me to just
Yeah,
pull
focus
down my
on.
wetsuit. I don't
Yeah.
want anything else pulled back up. Absolutely not.
Yeah, yeah. It seems like a lot for sure.
Yeah.
So do you have siblings then?
I do. I have 2 older brothers and a younger sister, so I am classic middle child. However, we were very spread apart. So my sister's 5 years younger, my brother's 5 years older, and then my other brother is 15 years older than me.
Wow, that's a big spread.
Yeah, it's a huge spread. We never really shared clothes and we're friends now, but it's hard having that big of an age gap.
Yeah, for sure. Was that, if I may pry a little bit, was that something your parents like planned, or were they like, we want to have kids every decade?
I don't think it was planned or unplanned. I don't know. I think they just like rolled with it.
Yeah, for sure. So did you grow up in the Northeast?
I did. I grew up in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
So the northeast corner, it's called Dingman's Ferry. No one's ever heard of it, but about 90 miles west of New York City. So if I had to like give a idea, it'd be west of New York City, very close to New York and New Jersey.
Okay, nice. So what did you say your parents do?
Oh, my mom is a waitress, still
Okay.
is, and in New Jersey because there's more work opportunity out there. So I grew up working at that same restaurant that she still works at, and
That's awesome.
yeah, so that was to go on a little tangent. That was a great experience. I think everybody should have to work in the food service industry,
Yeah.
and it got me out of my shell a lot. I was pretty shy, and when I was 14, my mom's like, "Do you want to be a bus girl?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that sounds good." And so that got me way out of my shell because I had to talk to strangers. So and then I still miss waitressing to this day. So I was bus girl and then cashier and then eventually became a waitress once I was 18, could serve alcohol. So
Wow. I
yeah.
feel yeah, I've never worked as like a busboy or a wait or anything like that. In high school, I went to a boarding school, so I worked in food service in that regard. We made
Oh,
food for hundreds of kids, which was it was whatever, just opening a bunch of cans and heating stuff up. But Do you feel like life lessons learned during that phase of your life like help to carry on through your professional career later on, just because you're obviously having to, it's a service-based thing?
Yeah, I would say that it helped you. It really like gave you an appreciation for the value of hard work
Mm,
because you were being tipped based on how well you did. And
that can be
I,
hard.
yeah, and I'd say that there's the nights got so busy often that I barely saw any of my tips. Like I wouldn't know exactly who gave me what. And if I did look, it would give me it would you would be surprised sometimes, like you have a really nice table and they were lovely people and they order a lot of food and then they gave you like a 10% tip and you're like, I don't understand. But then
Mm,
you have other people that tip really well. But on the whole, it felt like you were rewarded for the job you did, like on
sure.
the average. So I think that is a good life lesson. And a lot of jobs don't work that way. But, and just being on your feet for like 8 hours, I have so much appreciation for everybody in retail and food
Mm,
service who have to do that. And I don't know how my parents still do it to this day on their feet. I mentioned my mom's a waitress. My dad is a cook at a nursing home and does some food service directing, which means that he keeps inventory of what food is there and orders more food when needed.
sure.
So they met actually. Funny, I just watched on HBO Class Action Park, which is a documentary about this like wild water park in Vernon, New Jersey in the 80s and 90s,
Oh well,
where like people actually died because it was like so unsafe.
it's just
And
sketchy.
yeah, but that was located right next to the what used to be the Playboy Club because the guy's goal was
Fascinating.
to have like a future Orlando or like future Vegas, like Vegas of the East, of the Northeast. And my parents met at the Playboy Club because they both worked there.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't have guessed that long-term relationships are built around that kind of establishment, but it worked out for them, and here we are with Nicole. So that's great.
Yep, that's how I was a product of the Playboy Club.
Wow, that's wild.
Yeah. Yeah.
What
Fun
is the
story.
Playboy Club, if I may ask? Is that like,
It was
is it what it
literally
sounds
like
like?
it's no longer in operation there, but I believe there's still one open. And it's basically it's a restaurant, it's a resort,
Okay.
hotel, and they hold a lot of events with very high level celebrities. And
Oh,
they have bunnies who dress up like the bunnies were the cocktail waitresses.
mm-hmm.
My mom was a food waitress, so my mom was not a bunny, and my dad was a chef
Okay.
in the kitchen, and that's how they met.
Super interesting. Wow. So food service, there's a lot of family history there. So I guess let's go back to high school first. When did you, because you said you enjoyed sports and you kind of started doing that. You swimming, I think you started at 8. When you get to high school at
Hmm.
that point, is that when you started to focus more on running?
Exactly. Yeah, I picked up cross country my freshman year.
Okay.
I almost did tennis. I did tennis in middle school, and then I just didn't. I didn't like field hockey enough, and it process of elimination. I said, let's try cross country. So I did cross country my freshman year, and then I did softball my freshman year in spring. Did not do track, and then I did track the following year.
Okay. Interesting. So what was high school like for you? Because for me, I hated high school. Some of my friends, it was like the golden years. And then some people really like college, and there's kind of this back and forth. What was it like for you?
It was very busy. I still don't know how I went. Had like a toaster strudel in the morning
Oh, I
at
forgot about
7.
those. Wow.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah. My mom always made sure I ate something before I left the house. Like I would eat it in the car on the way to the bus stop.
Mm-hmm.
Bus came at 7:03, school from 8 to 2:38, and it was a long bus ride too. I did a lot of homework on the bus and then had after school activities until until like 5:30, and then there was a 6 o'clock late bus. And that got me home around 7. And then I would do homework and eat dinner.
Wow.
And I'm just like, how I can't even fathom a schedule like that.
Yeah, that's super busy. So you got like 4 hours of sleep a night because you said you're staying up late and
I was
doing
up till
homework?
midnight, and then I would wake up around honestly like 6:50. I would roll out of bed, throw on some clothes, and like be at the bus stop by 7:03. Like,
Wow. That's insane. I was
yeah.
always fighting my high school and even middle school, probably even elementary school experience was my mom knocking on my door every 5 minutes until it was a full blown argument because I'm not getting up. Seth, get up. Seth, get up. Seth, get up. So I can't imagine. I was always wanting to sleep. I always needed tons of sleep. So that's
No,
interesting that you were able to do it that way.
that's nice of your mom. My mom just honked the horn in the
Yeah.
car outside.
Honestly, it probably would have been better. I would have learned responsibility at a little bit earlier of an age, I'm sure.
Yeah. But
Uh,
where does boarding school come in?
for me,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's kind of strange. So I changed schools a lot. We moved a lot growing up. So I can't even tell you how many schools I went to middle school and prior. I kind of kept going into like Christian boarding school and then out and in and out and in and out. And then high school, it was freshman year at a public high school with like 4,000 kids. And I'm like no taller than 4 feet, very small. Yeah, so didn't really do a lot of sports. Did like JROTC, that stuff. And then sophomore year, for the first half of the year, I went to a boarding academy. And then basically I got so homesick when we were about to go on this trip because my mom was dropping me back off because we had like what they call a home leave where you're home for a few days, and like I just had this next level panic attack that I've never had before where I didn't want to separate with my mom. So like I went back with my mom back home and I was like, I'm not doing this thing. So then I ended up going to a local Christian school, which it's interesting. They say it's Christian, but there was more drugs in that school than there was in even my public high schools. So I
Oh
did that,
wow.
and then I graduated and finished a full year my senior year after a year and a half in this other school back at that original boarding school, which I wish actually I would have finished. It would have been good because being on your own in boarding school has its ups and downs, but you really did have to learn how to wake up on your own, set your own alarm, get ready for school, make sure you eat in time, do your homework. There's a lot of, stuff you kind of learn in college. So yeah, it was wild, wild situation. But
Yeah, learn your independence a little earlier than I did, I guess.
yeah, well,
Had my
yeah,
toaster strudel waiting for me in the car.
yeah. And you said you had siblings that were so much older than you too, so I feel like your parents probably realized, oh, my kids can probably figure this stuff out for themselves a little bit more because, yeah, I've noticed in the beginning parents are usually like super strict, and then as each child is brought forth, there's a less of an intensity when it comes to parenting.
Yeah, I'd say that held true, and I actually feel like I was a lot more better behaved than my brother, so that made it a little bit easier. And so yeah, by the time I was 16, I and could get my permit. Had my permit, and when I was 16 and a half, I was driving.
Yeah.
And yeah, just because where I grew up too, it's like you couldn't walk to anything, you couldn't ride to anything.
Mm,
You had to get driven. Like
yeah.
even the closest grocery store was a 15-minute drive.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. That's similar for us. We were in rural North Carolina.
mm.
So with high school, you're finishing high school. You're obviously enjoying your homework, which is more than most 16 to 18-year-olds would say. You decided to go to college. Did you go to Bucknell College for your entire college career?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I was recruited, junior year in high school, and I went on 3 trips, and Bucknell was by far the best school academically and athletically that was interested in me.
Yeah.
So when I eventually received my academic need-based aid scholarship, I was like, it was a no-brainer that I chose to go there.
That's awesome. So was mathematics, because you have a degree in mathematics. Tell us about that degree. Is it like a 4-year degree, and why math?
Yeah. I think my high school cross country coach slash AP Calc teacher had a bit of a influence on that. So, him being very math oriented, and I liked math. I was like math a little bit more than the other subjects. So, yeah, I pursued that, and it's a 4-year degree. It's a Bachelor of Science, meaning which meant at Bucknell that I had to take some physics courses and understand how to apply math.
Mm-hmm.
And at the upper level, at that level of math in college, though, like things get really wild. Like you're understanding why a derivative is a derivative. You're understanding you're taking courses like topology, which is the study of spaces,
Hmm.
and it feels more inventive than discovered, where they're inventing new kinds of math so that you then can create more
Sense of things.
theories about it. Yeah, it gets very hard, very intangible
Yeah.
at those levels. So math was really, I think I had like a C average. It was not an easy major, but
Yeah.
took a lot of Spanish courses. I actually have a degree in Spanish,
Oh,
a
interesting.
Bachelor of Arts in Spanish, but that brought up my GPA. But I'd say generally in college, I was very focused on being an athlete first and a
Mm-hmm.
student second. And I honestly think it's like the best approach I've ever taken to something like that. Like I was so, like I mentioned, I would stay up till midnight, 1 a.m. in high school doing homework. But in college, eventually I had to call it a night because
Yeah.
I wasn't going to get through my next session the next day,
Mm-hmm.
like for running if I stayed up late. And at some point, you just can't cram any more information. I think I kind of appreciated that and let myself just like go to bed. So I think I pulled maybe one all-nighter in all of college.
Yeah. I was exactly the same, except I wasn't an athlete and I was just messing around and never did anything. I did a little bit more to the end of my college career, but yeah, that's a really good actually because a lot of my friends, I noticed in college, like they would get super burnt out, especially the pre-med students. They would just drive themselves into the ground, never get any sleep, and I was always like, well, I mean, sleep's got to be number one, most important, and then exercise because I feel like those put together actually make you a better student
Yeah.
ultimately.
Yeah, they say you need the sleep at night to like even like to process and store information, or
Mm-hmm.
else it just like you just forget everything you just studied.
Yeah.
So, and I did take the advice of my coach who in college who said like, you're not going to remember that awesome math class you took. You're not going to remember that exam that you got an A on. You're going
Mm-hmm.
to remember the 8-hour bus ride on your way to Akron, Ohio to run in a 300-meter indoor track.
Yeah.
And you're going to remember that Patriot League championship from like your sophomore year where you got super muddy and that is so true. Like
Mm-hmm.
the experiences I had in college were 100% devoted like because of Bucknell cross country and track and field and not like my like I did have amazing professors, but not like the amazing things I learned because I've forgotten a lot of it by now. Of course it helped me get a job, right?
Sure.
I got my B average and I got a really good job thanks to track and field connection actually at
Oh, really?
Citibank. So it kind of like it all goes full circle and yeah, it's so definitely appreciate not trying to be the best at absolutely everything and choosing experiences over grades. I
Yeah,
think
for
was
sure.
like I'm lucky I chose that path.
Yeah, for sure. And then you graduated in was it the summer of 2010?
2009.
2009.
Yeah, spring like May 2009.
Okay. And so
Yeah.
I read that, and I just want to read this little blurb I took off your bio. I graduated
Yeah.
Bucknell with a mathematics degree and moved to New York City in 2010, lured by a promising tech startup with a salary just big enough to afford the occasional burrito dinner from the neighborhood of my first apartment in gritty Spanish Harlem. So a few questions here. First question, what was the tech startup? Second question, did you choose Spanish Harlem because you had a minor in Spanish?
Ah, no, but it helps. Okay, so first question. The startup was called Stella Service, and it got acquired by Medallia after they let me go in like
Mm,
2017. And that's actually an integral part to my story because 2017 was the year that
you went
I was
permanent.
a dog walker
Oh,
because I didn't have a job and I was in New York and I was like, oh my gosh, I need something to just not dip into my savings too much. So I started dog walking and all in the Upper East Side. And that was the year where I made a huge jump in my performance.
mm-hmm.
And I'll get to your second question in a minute.
Yeah, you're
But
fine.
it wasn't, that performance jump wasn't because I was working out much more at all, because I had dog walks from like 8 a.m. to like 5 p.m. with like random breaks in the middle. It was because I was standing up, I was walking around, I wasn't sitting at my desk, and I was sleeping well, and I had like absolutely no stress. So I attribute, and that was the year that I earned my pro license for triathlon.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all connected. But so yeah, so the company was Stella Service, and I was the first employee, and they were two Bucknell grads who I linked up with, and yeah, later got acquired. And then the reason I chose Spanish Harlem was strictly because of affordability.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a friend of a friend, also a Bucknell connection, that had an opening in their apartment, and it used to be the living room, but they made it a bedroom kind of thing. So
Nice.
I'll never forget, it was only like $700 a month, and I was on 91st and First, so I was a little bit south of Spanish Harlem, but I had dog walking clients there eventually. And yeah, so I was $700 a month apartment in the Upper East Side slash Spanish Harlem, and making a very small salary, but enough to like pay my student loans. So, and I thought it
Yeah,
sounded
it's
like a lot
important.
of money compared to my parents. So I was like, oh yeah, this is a great job.
Yeah. I'm curious before I ask another question, then we can get to the other question I asked. Dog walking. That obviously is a very much a city thing. How much money does one make walking dogs for a living?
So this was the height of the apps, of the dog walking apps. Basically, we had Rover, and there was another Wag, and I priced myself really low. I only priced myself at $15 for a half hour walk, and then the app took 20% of that. So I
Oh,
was
so it
making
was an
like,
app. I should have known.
yeah, so I was making like $12 a half hour, $24 an hour.
Oh, it's not
And
bad.
then it's not bad if you can book yourself up. So like I priced myself low so I could get a bunch of clients, and you only walk one dog at a time. And
Oh,
that's a
wow.
big
That's nice.
part of the service you offer, is that you have like one-on-one time with someone's dog. And in the Upper East Side, people really like that, because they're like, I want my dog to be with only one person. And
Yeah. It's like
it
their
was
kid.
what's that?
It's like their kid. A lot of people treat their dogs a little bit more like
Oh
their
yeah.
child nowadays. Yeah.
There wasn't a walk that I did that I didn't send like a really nice photo back to the owner, like, hey,
Nice.
cute caption, and
Cute
yeah,
caption.
yeah. It was a great way to see different types of living establishments in New York, and different apartments, different professions. And about a third of my clients were home when I walked their dog. They just didn't feel like walking their dog.
Wow. Must be
Why do
nice.
that
Yeah.
if I could pay Nicole $15 to do it
Yeah.
for me?
Exactly. So with the what was the name of the startup again?
Stella Service.
Stella Service. So what
Yeah.
was the product? And I assume because you were employee number one or three of you, you're doing pretty much everything. But what was that evolution like as you guys grew to 60 employees?
Yeah. It was a, company that rated customer service of online retailers.
Okay.
So they would basically mystery shop the top 100 retailers and provide that information back in the form of competitive intelligence, so that companies understood where they should best allocate their resources. So let's say we secret shop, we send LL Bean an email once a day for a month, and we send the same similar email to a competitor like REI, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
and we say like, hey, REI responded in like 1 hour on average, but you guys took 4. Like, what's up with that? Like, maybe you should staff up your
Oh,
call
interesting.
center, or yeah. So it was competitive intelligence, and then they spun off to create more of a customer driven feedback. So like how you get that email after you've had a live chat or an email thread or a call with an agent, you would get an email back saying, "Hey, how was your service? And how was your call with like Athena? What she by the way, she loves to camp, and she likes to pay people to walk her dog. What
Hmm.
would you how would you rate her? And it was more gamified. So it'd be like, do you think she deserves a high five, a nap during work hours, or like dinner on the company? And then you kind of like rate that. So then it was immediate feedback for call center
Oh, okay.
agents so that they could understand, like get feedback real time. And so it's very like gamified
Yeah,
customer service feedback.
that's really interesting. So how much did the company sell for? Do you know?
I don't know, but I think it's public. And
It is public.
I got a, a little bit of a kickback from that from like,
Some equity that you built up.
yeah, exactly. But it was honestly, it was like looking back at how much I made my first and second year, it was like, well, I should have just gotten that much anyway.
Yeah.
But anyway, I wish them well. And yeah, it did help a little bit thinking from the customer standpoint in my current job, where we're building products and features that customers use and thinking about what they would want to see in their, if we were in their shoes.
Yeah. So it sounds like a lot of data and analysis. Like, are you looking at heat maps of how they use apps, or you're just like taking raw feedback that they give you, or like it's a mixture of all those things?
It is. That's a great question, and you kind of already answered it. You're looking at what the obviously what the data is showing you. So for me, if I'm looking at some search data, I'm looking at what are they typing, but also what are they clicking, and is something like a type ahead, or some people call it auto suggest, where you see
Yeah.
suggestions as you type. Is that something that's helpful? And how do we prove that it's helpful? And is it worth the development team building that out so that like what's the ultimate goal, right? The ultimate goal is a customer who uses search finds what they need. It's a better experience, it's less frustration, and we see that they end up not needing to use live chat or call.
Mm-hmm.
So we're looking at like the big picture as well.
Yeah. So one of your goals, it sounds like, is to, how do I put this? Avoid the need for a person, like a live person, to connect with them to solve their problem. Like you're trying to figure out how to just, yeah. As a customer, let me tell you, I hate that.
Yeah. You hate calling, or you hate
No, I like, I
someone
just want,
avoiding?
yeah, someone avoiding me. Because like sometimes, I mean, I have rarely encountered an AI chatbot or like a help form that like just answers my specific question. Because, and maybe it's because I'm a little bit more tech savvy, so I know how to kind of do most things. I'm not gonna call someone I can't open my bank account number or whatever, something like that. It's more of like technical
Yeah.
stuff. So it's probably different for other people, to be fair. But it always is so frustrating when you're working with a company and it's like, I just need to get to the phone to tell them my unique situation to fix this problem. But yeah, that's neither here nor there. Probably not great podcast material for anyone listening. But
No, I know I could like really talk about this all day. Like we have different like customer personas that we're thinking about. So we're thinking about someone like you who is like digital first, wants to solve their problem on their own, knows when they need to call, and someone who's like refuses to download an app even though they could cash a check without going to their bank, right? Like some people still don't use like mobile check deposit.
yeah,
So it's like,
yeah,
yeah, we're thinking about all of the types.
yeah. You got a large customer base.
Yeah.
So then after you did dog walking, like you immediately kind of went over to Citibank, and that happened at the same time that you were going professional.
Yeah, so dog walking was 2017, and that's where I earned my pro card.
Okay,
Um, I by winning like I think I won every amateur race I did that year, and that was when we still had like
that's awesome.
Escape from Alcatraz, Philadelphia. We
Okay,
had, or I think they called it like Escape Philly because who doesn't want to leave Philly? Because it's
yeah,
I'm so like after living in New York for 10 and a half years, um, I'm so like it's hard for me to like other cities. I'm like such
yeah.
a New York snob, but anyway, Escape Philly, New York City Try, which is still around. But yes, I earned my pro license in 2017 and immediately said, "Yep, next year I'm going to race pro in 2018." And that 2018 is when I started working at City.
Okay, nice. So as
Yeah.
you move into the pro fields, you're going from winning all of your amateur races to like, I imagine, not winning all of them. What
Yeah,
was
you could
that?
say it. I was like mid to back of pack, like three
Okay.
quarters back. Yeah.
Yeah, and it seems like that's like how the progression of things usually typically go. What was that like
Hmm.
mentally? Like as you're building through it, like was it obviously was it expected, or how have you dealt with that, or how
Oh,
did you deal with it?
completely expected. It reminded me of when I went to Bucknell and the coach said, "Yeah, you'd probably be like between 15th and 20th out of our 25 women, like day one." And I'm like, "Great, like room to grow."
Yeah,
And I felt like when I was placing, I think my first race ever was Oceanside. So I really like dove head first.
yeah,
And
that's a big race.
yeah, I think it was like 16th out of like 22 or something. And I was like,
Not last. That's awesome.
yeah. And I was like, I feel like I feel like now I can benchmark myself and say, okay, I am the 16th woman at this race. So it feels like a fair benchmark of where exactly how good I am and how much further I could go.
Hmm.
Whereas I feel like if you're just like beaten up on the amateur field, it's like, well, what's the point? It's just like that's just ego then. If you're
Yeah,
like proud of yourself for like winning all these races, like level up.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Keep moving on. So, did you ever, once you made that decision and started racing pro, because you've been racing for what 5 or 6 years now? Um,
Hmm.
were you ever like, maybe this wasn't the right decision?
Uh no, I never looked back. I never second guessed it. Um, I'd say I hit like a performance plateau in 2019. So I hired a new coach. So I hired Julie Dibbins
Hmm.
out of Boulder, Colorado. So she coaches like Lauren Brandon, Tim O'Donnell, Laura Siddle, and uh, Andre Lopez. And so she's got like a really good roster.
Yeah,
And yeah, so I hired her and upped my training a bit by maybe from like 12 to a consistent 16 hours a week and with opportunities for training camps.
yeah, that's awesome. Is it you? And I imagine you probably can't share this, but is it relatively expensive to have a coach of that caliber that you're hiring?
Yeah, and I like to talk about money in general. Like I don't shy away from like a close friend or like telling them what I earn in salary because I think it only hurts us when we're not sharing information.
Sweet.
Yeah, I'll tell you offline like how much Julie is, but I know from comparing notes with other professionals that you're looking at a minimum of 300 for like a good coach who's actually going to look at your data
Yeah, like
up
get into the science.
to yeah, like up to maybe 800. So yeah, between 3 and 8 I'm giving a big range, but is like what you should expect. Anything less than that, they probably don't have they probably have a lot of clients and they don't have the time to really look at your data. So
Yeah, for sure. How long did you have a coach prior to Julie? Was that in your
ever
amateur career?
s-
And yeah.
yeah, ever since I started triathlon, I had a coach. So as soon as I decided I wanted to try it, I hired a coach out of he lives still to this day lives in the Bronx and Coach Jonathan Kane, and he I've always hired coaches who are very have a good science background. So he has his master's in exercise physiology,
Mm-hmm.
and I believe Julie has an advanced degree as well. And he and his wife, he was like my give me assignments coach, and his wife was Nicole Sinqui, who's like an amazing person and
Mm-hmm.
athlete herself. She was more of like my mental coach, and I'm still very close with her to this day. And I was babysitting their child at the time
Oh,
as well, and that was which they also were so generous. They also pay me to do that, but so that was able to like fund some of my triathlon costs. Was I was
mm-hmm.
babysitting, and he was giving me free coaching, and yeah, so that was I very fortunate to have that start, and
Sure.
even just like um, borrowing equipment. And I
Mm-hmm.
think it took me like I remember it took me about 4 years till I was no longer borrowing something that I was racing with.
Yeah.
'Cause it just like takes it's just the barrier to
It's
entry is so
expensive. It's
high.
so high. Yeah, I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So then you said you had that performance plateau. How did you Like, what exactly did that mean? Like, you just weren't getting faster on the bike, and then once you switched coaches, how did you know you made the right decision? Because you started to climb above that, or was it literally just a volume thing? Or
It was volume, which we want to be careful about because I work full time, so it's I'm always eager to do more, but yeah, so it's a slight increase in volume, but also the opportunity for having training camps and surrounding myself and just it was a bit of like I wanted to feel like more of a
yeah,
professional and it sounds so silly because it was 2 weeks out of the whole year, but being at a training camp and then seeing those same people at races where you felt just more legitimate
mm-hmm.
was a big reason for me going with Julie. So yeah, that was a lot of my motivation to switch over, and it's just in New York, like you don't really hear about like other professional. You hear sometimes about professional triathletes coming out of New York, like Sarah Piampiano was based in New York before getting coached and going full time,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, so I wanted to feel more legitimate too.
Yeah. No, that's really good. And then what when you like got beyond that performance plateau, what did that feel like? What did you notice first?
I noticed I was biking a lot faster. I was putting out only a little bit more power, but where I was applying my power in a race on a like specific to that course was smarter. So,
Hills versus flats versus
yeah, so I used to ride like the same power the whole race like as if I were on erg mode. And then when I to have a boost in performance, I was much more, like really going hard on the climbs, getting more aerodynamic on the descents, and like working on my handling so that I would feel confident to do, enough
mm-hmm.
to do that. Getting making turns better, like kind
Mm-hmm.
of hit a little bit of handling, but and then like getting out of a turn,
Yeah.
like getting back up to speed is something that I made a big difference in, and I still continue to get faster on the run because I think my bike was taking less out of me.
Mm-hmm.
So even though my overall power was only a little bit higher, my speed was way higher, and then my ability to run off the bike was a lot better.
Yeah. So on the descents for ones that have significant descents, are you pulling back on power then and just getting arrow and narrow and like holding or you yeah, what are you doing?
Yeah, I'm like once I'm looking at the miles per hour, and once I see that I'm going like above 35, I will do a legal tuck. I used to super tuck when it was loud. I didn't care. But now I do like the legal tuck and I just check to make sure that I'm actually like speeding up.
Okay,
So,
nice.
yeah,
Good
and I
tactics.
have
I
like
didn't never think about that. Yeah.
yeah, and I've noticed more. I get bike fits every year, and I feel like I'm pretty optimized and I have like a natural fairing. If you
Like
can interpret that correctly.
like
So that
is your
my
arrow
chest.
down or okay.
My chest. I have like a natural fairing, so I don't
Okay.
have to do the bottle thing.
Okay.
And I also feel like I'm super. Julie has me focus on this during trainer workouts, especially.
Stay narrow.
But yeah, just like getting like staying super narrow, keeping my head low, and like being able to hold that position for just over 2 hours or over five
Yeah.
in a full Ironman.
Yeah, that's interesting. You mentioned the fairing thing because a lot of the guys now, I've seen water bottles, but now like all of Lionel, Magnus, whoever, they're putting like literally a camelback there, like a bladder with a little straw. I was thinking about doing that for this
Yeah,
weekend, but
I've seen that as well, and that just and then they don't have to stop at an aid station. But I
more
imagine
practice.
you would have to get used to that with the weight just like pulling
Yeah,
yourself down.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm not willing to try that. I still think it looks really stupid.
Well, you would have laughed then seeing me. I did Ironman Wisconsin, and I had a giant bottle, and then I'm running through transition, and it's like bouncing, and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is like terrible. But it worked out pretty good actually. It didn't bother me too bad, but who knows if it actually helped anything. My coaches give me a hard time because it's like pointing way over here sometimes, and then
uh,
way over here. So you got to
no,
keep
I
it straight.
definitely think like there's enough studies that show that it does help, especially men more than women. But
Yeah,
I've heard of it helping women as well.
yeah.
I right now my kit is so tight, like so skin tight like the
It'd
real
be
Tri
difficult.
Squad Jet Crew kit that like I can't imagine fitting anything else in there.
Yeah. So, you're in Portsmouth, New
Yeah,
Hampshire.
yeah.
Um, looking on Strava to see if you're still there, and you currently are. So you say you really love the roads there for biking and running, but are the winters not absolutely brutal?
So, being so close to the coast, we get spared a lot with
Okay.
some of the bigger storms that come in. But if you simply, like, it'll be, maybe 3 inches of snow here. And then you go an hour, especially 2 hours northwest over to
Like
the White
feet.
Mountains. Oh, yeah. Like, multiply it by 5 to 10. And that's how many inches that they have.
Wow.
So you it's like kind of sad because sometimes you'll be like, oh, it's snow, and then you're like, oh, now it's like sleet, and now it's rain, and now it's kind of
Yeah.
gone. But yeah, we definitely have the ocean effect. Like if you probably saw my Strava, my ride yesterday, I'm riding along the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
Like I am right now. I'm less than a mile from like the port. I wouldn't say ocean because it's a port. And then like if I want to go to like the beach, I'm 2 miles.
No, that's not bad.
Yeah,
So is
no,
it
it's
like, I mean,
lovely.
what's temperature right now outside? Like, is it starting to get pretty chilly?
Yeah, it gets like at below 60 at night. We're having still like a pretty warm week, so it's like the high is like 72.
Okay.
So it's like
That's
great
good for any
sleeping
weather for now.
weather.
Yeah.
Yeah, but next, I mean, any minute now, it's gonna be like the high is gonna be more like 60 to 65.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even down here, actually, it's been really nice lately. We've been in the mid to low 50s at night and then up in the 80s a day. So it's been
Oh yeah.
about perfect. And Tennessee's usually like this time of year still stupid hot. But yeah, it's been not too bad. So how did you get involved with RTS or the Real Triathlon Squad, the team?
Yeah. So I really had admired them, and I was teammates with Lisa Baccaris when she was coached by Julie.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew her. I knew Leslie from my trips to Boulder, um, and yeah. So that's who I knew personally, and then I was actually invited to be part of the squad, which I was shocked because I would have like reached out to them if I knew that they were interested in somebody who works full time because they
Mm-hmm.
had Tamara, but she was at the time working like part time.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, they're not gonna be interested in me. But yeah, so Nick Chase reached out to me and invited me to join the squad, and then I gave him reasons that I should be on the squad because it still seemed like he was like just like planting the seed for me, and that he was interested in other people as well.
Mm-hmm.
So then I was like, oh, okay, like I'm gonna tell you why I should be on the Real Tri Squad.
Yeah.
And so yeah, so I
Feeling
joined.
it.
Yeah, yeah. So it's been. I'll anticipate your next question. It's been awesome having it again, adding to that more legitimacy.
Mm-hmm.
And when I'm at races, I think there's maybe been one race where there wasn't at least one other person, and that was Ironman Mont Tremblant.
Mm-hmm.
So there's always someone to bounce ideas off of, like, oh, did you see that thing at like mile 10? Or like, hey, how are you gonna approach the course, and where are you going to line up in the swim? It's like it's little things like that that make it really helpful. And then just having another body out there on the course, knowing that your teammates are racing
Yeah.
is really great. And then add to that more training camps, more
Mm-hmm.
potential for travel, like having similar accommodations,
Yeah.
and then like bouncing in and then if something comes up, like I had a question about overnight layovers with my bike and how that would work, and then just asking the group chat and getting good
Immediate
answers.
feedback. Yeah, for sure. How long have you been on the team now?
Just under a year. So I joined, technically this was my first year.
Nice. Is it, and you don't have to share this if you don't want to, but in being on a team like that, because it seems like there's more of them coming up, and there's obvious benefits to being on a team, but are there like benchmarks that you are required to meet to like stay on the team, or is the idea just you guys want to build a clan together so you can build more media following and like that can help with sponsorships and things like that? Like, what's the overall idea of everything?
Yeah, so Nick's talked about this on some other podcasts, so I'm not sharing anything I'm not supposed to. So his ideology is to have, rather than having like me reach out to Envy and be like, hey, Envy, you should give me wheels and sponsor me.
Mm-hmm.
It's much more in Envy's interest to sponsor a group of 8 pro triathletes and
Yeah.
have better penetration in the pro field,
Mm-hmm.
and know that Real Tri Squad itself is going to have the funds to socialize. Hey, Envy is our wheel sponsor,
Right.
and Envy is going to have Envy is assured that their logo is going to be on all of our kits, and that Real Tri Squad says, like, we have at least 4 of us are doing Los Cabos in November. Well, of course we're going to like get content, and
Yeah.
we just need like one photographer or videographer who can then like make really cool media for us.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like kind of like pooling resources together, so that as a team we can better socialize our current sponsors.
Yeah. No, that's good answer. That's really interesting. So to stay on the team, do you have to do anything specific? Is Nick like, you got to win 3 races, or?
There are participation requirements, but absolutely not performance requirements.
Cool. That's good.
Yeah.
That makes
But
me feel less anxious. So.
Yeah, and then there are performance bonuses
Okay.
intertwined with Real Tri Squad.
Nice. So Real Tri Squad
Yeah.
has a bankroll, and they're like ready to just dish out money then. Not quite there yet.
Not quite there, but yeah, there's a lot going. There's like a lot that Nick, our manager Nick Chase, is pursuing with like the Super League team,
Mm-hmm.
and we have a developmental squad as well. So we have some like more rookie pros,
Mm-hmm.
and so yeah, there are a couple and we have like an age group contingent where you like, yeah, there's some benefits there. There's no cost to be like an age group. You don't have to wear the kit or anything. You just like get the newsletter, and you can meet up with us in at some of the races where there's a lot of us.
Yeah. Cool. You are not going to be at Augusta, are you? Or are you going for fun? No.
No, and it's funny. Like it's a lot like Maine. Funny, Maine's also Augusta. The Maine that I did in July, where the course would suit me because it's a downriver swim like Maine was, and it's a somewhat rolling bike. There's like 4 significant hills. I did Augusta in 2021, and then Maine's run is a little bit more flat, but Augusta, Georgia is like really flat.
Yeah.
And I did Ironman Mont Tremblant now 5 weeks ago, and so it would have been a big ask to turn around and do a 70.3 this weekend. But I just don't like that town, and if I'm not feeling the location, then I feel less incentivized to race.
Interesting. Why don't you like the town?
Bad
experience?
I don't know. Like nothing bad happened when I was there, but I just didn't love I hate the word vibes. I didn't like the vibes. I really didn't like the run course, that being so pancake flat, and I don't know. Like I just need, at this point, like it's not my job to race. So
Sure.
if I'm not like loving the idea, then I don't do it.
Okay, fair enough. Do you think you'll ever make, like, is there a benchmark that you have to hit to make a switch, or like, I'm doing triathlon full time?
Yeah, I would have to have a performance like I did in Maine 70.3 every single weekend of my life.
Yeah. How did you do at that
Like
race?
I was third. So it was
Okay.
my first professional podium. So
That's
that
awesome.
was, thank you. So that was like a really big deal
Yeah.
for me. And it was like 2 hours away. So it was like sort of local.
Mm-hmm.
But financially, I don't stomach not being financially stable and
Sure.
financially independent really well. Having grown up in a very blue collar household, it was like we absolutely didn't have like money to throw around.
Yeah.
So I never feel like I can save enough. So I would never, unless I, like I said, had a weekend like that every weekend of my life, I wouldn't feel comfortable. Like I couldn't stomach the stress of having to perform well.
Yeah.
You know, I get to perform well because I don't have the stresses of having to make a paycheck.
Yeah, for sure. How many fulls have you done then? You said this recent one 5 weeks ago.
That's it. That was my first one. Yeah, Mont Tremblant.
Yeah. What was that experience like?
I I got seventh, so
It's really good.
to go straight to the punchline, I feel like I did within my control everything that I could do. Meaning, I executed my race plan that Julie gave me like to a T. I executed my nutrition plan to a T, and I left no stone unturned in terms of that nutrition. Um, Julie works with a guy, Jared Berg, who's an also I think it's exercise physiologist. He has his PhD, and when I'm in Boulder visiting, or when we're at camp, he's there taking our lactate, giving us doing like nutrition talks. And I consulted with Jared before Mont Tremblant to make a nutrition plan, and I knew my sweat loss rate, so just the volume of sweat that I lose in a similar, as much as I could. Like it was like 70 and really humid.
Yeah.
Here and at Mont Tremblant, and I know my sweat percentage because Nick keep going back to camps, but you learn a lot. Nick Chase did like a precision fuel and hydration sweat test. So I know that I sweat 1,000 milligrams per liter. So I knew like all this like really important piece of data, and I know how many carbs I've been intaking in a 70.3 and what my goal power on the bike and pace was on the run. And from all those numbers, Jared and I figured out, okay, this is exactly how much I need to intake. And so anyway, just really nailed my nutrition. I swam exactly like to the second what my average pace per 100 meters was.
What was your time?
1 hour and 1 minute and some change.
Nice.
So that's 135 per 100 meters.
Nice.
Which isn't amazing, but I did the...
It's your first one?
Yeah, and I did the final 3/4 on my own with like just all by feel. Just being like, yeah, I think this is my pace. And it got oddly spread apart. We had Rachel Zelinskis swimming like a 50, and then someone else swam like another group in like 55, and then I came in at like an hour and a minute, and then the next woman behind me was like an hour 4 minutes. So
yeah, that is spread.
Yeah, and then I did. Julie gave me a 10-watt range for my bike, and I hit that range. And then on the run, I actually went slower than expected, which is a bummer because I was pretty close to the fastest run of the day. I was second fastest, but I did 3 hours 11, and and that was my first marathon and my first run over 18 miles.
So the longest run during training you did was 18 miles?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, and that was in February, because ever since then I've been having like this, I think I figured it out, but I have like this arch/big toe issue where I'm just kind of like rolling around my arch to avoid bending it. So yeah, so we were on like a very low mileage run program. And so, yeah, I was like super thrilled. Like, and to just come out unscathed. I was like, I heard so many stories. I didn't want to like permanently like tear my fascia or something. Yeah. And I didn't want to have that story of like, oh, I had to walk for 2 miles, but then I started running 6 flat. Like, I just like didn't need the hero story. I just wanted to have a good day.
Yeah.
So my Ironman experience was like, was I racing? I guess because I was in a race, but I was more executing a plan than I was like being competitive.
Those are usually the best races.
Honestly, it reminded me of how I used to do 70.3, where I was just like blinders on, execute, and don't care about anyone around me. And it took me until last year where I was finally like confident enough and experienced enough where I said, no, if I see a girl up the road and I know her biking ability, and like in this female pro field, we kind of all know what each other are capable of. I'm going to go try to get her. I'm not just going to be like, nope, I don't want to surge. Like there's feel like I'm actually racing after this is my 6th year professionally. So after 5 years of professional racing, I finally feel like I can race the race.
Yeah.
Some of that is also because like I'm I'm like a mid pack swimmer, so I'm not at the front, but I work my way up to the front or close to the front at least.
Yeah.
But if I want a chance in hell at getting on a podium or even in the money, I know I need to be aware of like who's up the road for me and can I start catching women on the bike
Mhm.
and not just leaving it up to having a great run.
Yeah, for sure. How deep does the money go in Ironman and 70.3 in full in the pro field?
It depends. So in like a in like there's like a prize money chart, but the minimum prize money is 15,000 purse, which means that it pays out to the top 5.
Okay.
In a race like these courses it changes sometimes how much the purse is, but in a race like Boulder 70.3 where there's generally a bigger, it doesn't matter how big the field is, but
Sure.
in like a bigger race like Boulder, the prize purse is either 30,000 or 50,000, which then means that it pays out to the top 8
Okay.
in a 50,000.
Well, probably start wrapping up here. I just want to had a couple of final questions. First one, do you coach?
No, I have no time.
Yeah.
I've also
Desire?
like I've actually like a big part of it is I would feel so responsible for someone else's success
Mm,
and that would weigh on me.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my
Okay.
reasons for not coaching.
Okay. So what is and do you have like a long-term plan slash goal for everything you got going in life right now? Or is it just like, yeah, live in the moment and make it happen as it happens?
I'm like I have to like force myself to set goals, which is like sounds so silly. Like I love I love progress. I love like completing my workouts. But when it comes to long-term thinking, I think it's a little overrated because like often when you set goals, you're just like saying things that sound good,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm much more of like and like when I set goals, like I find myself saying like top 3 at an Ironman event. Like that was my goal for like 5 years. And then I finally did it, but like yeah, I'm not going to lie, it took me a downriver swim, a really technical bike and a really solid run to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't really set like super long term goals. Like I just like I am like super motivated right now after like my best season ever, and there's arbitrary like things are always inherently arbitrary, right? Like top 3 at an Ironman, that's just because 3 make the podium. And I
Yeah.
could say I want to be top 100 in the PTO. Right now I'm 107, but top 100, that's arbitrary, right?
Yeah.
It's just like why 100 because it's a round number.
Yeah.
So I'm like super, I get like, I'm super almost like too realistic when it comes to like goal
Yeah.
setting.
Okay. So, I mean, that's interesting. I think I read in your bio that you were like 150, so now you're 107. That's a significant jump.
Oh yeah, I wonder when I last updated that bio on
I
my
think it was like
homepage.
21 or 2, but
Yeah, lately on my like website homepage, I think I actually do list the number. Huh. I should just say like, hey, just go here to see my latest ranking. But
yeah, there you go.
no one really
Nice.
cares. Like nobody cares. Like I think that all the time. Like when I'm like yesterday, I had an hour and a half to do like an hour 40 bike ride. So I'm like, all right, where can I trim?
Yeah.
And I get to a construction area, and this like the guy just like makes like it was like a supposed to be 2-way road, but they now need
Yeah.
to work on half the road, so it's a one way. And like I'm on my bike, so I'm like, do I go on the sidewalk? Like, do I do the right thing? And I sit here and wait and like be frustrated. And the guy just like guy holding the stop sign that slow sign,
Mm-hmm.
makes direct eye contact with me, and you could tell he's like, you better not go, bitch. And I'm just like, oh my God. But like, and I just want to be like, but I have a work call and I have a meeting and I have to do 3 by 7 minutes at 205 watts. And like, he doesn't give a fuck. Like he's like, I'm here to hold my sign. And if you're privileged, you work remotely. Like if I actually got into it, he's like, you're telling me you didn't leave early enough for your ride. Just very typical. Now you're going to be 5 to 10 minutes late in your meeting and you work remotely. Like I'm out here with a sign from probably 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. and I don't care.
But
Nobody
you didn't
cares.
talk to him, so you really don't know. He could have been the nicest guy. He could have been like, you know what, go on.
The look on his face, he was not inviting small talk.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Mm.
I need to start carrying around like, or just carry around like $50 bills. But here, no,
Yeah,
like it's not worth
that's a very expensive.
$50.
That's more than nutrition. I'm not sure I'd do that. Yeah.
Throw goo at him.
Yeah, there you go. Enjoy this. You can survive off this for 45 minutes. Oh man. Um I was going to ask one more question to kind of close it off. Oh yeah, because you got third, did you qualify for World Champs next year?
Oh man, no, only the top two.
Oh, are you serious? So are you going to like shoot for that next year? If it happens, you're going to book your ticket and go?
Yeah, I think I need something like that to like get me to go to New Zealand, or else I'll be like someday, and then I
Yeah.
won't go. But I love that racing gets me to places that I wouldn't else think about
Yeah.
going to.
Yeah.
Um, and I did qualify for Lottie in
Okay.
Boulder. I placed seventh in Boulder, but it was late in the window, so it rolled down to me. And wait, was I? I was sixth at Boulder.
I think
No,
you were 6. That's what your
yeah,
website.
doesn't matter. I chose not to go. I did not accept my roll down. And I had time to think about it too because they canceled awards on the spot and they did it by email. But
Yeah.
I had this long term goal this was a long term goal of doing a full Ironman. And I chose Mont Tremblant because I could drive to it, because I
Mhm.
wanted to eliminate some of the travel stress. And I wanted my parents to come.
Yeah.
And it was the first time my parents needed a passport to travel somewhere. So they got their passports just to come watch me race.
That's cool.
And I got the Airbnb for us, and they had like they had absolutely lovely time. But it was really important for them to watch me race. They had never watched me race professionally and never been out of the country
Oh, that's cool
with needing a
experience.
passport. They've been to Canada, but back when you didn't need a passport. So
Yeah.
that was like a really special trip and really important for me. So
Yeah, yeah, no, that's huge to have family there for support. That's awesome. So are you going to
yeah,
do another Ironman next year?
I think so.
Yeah.
I'm like the whole reason I did an Ironman this year was I'm curious what I can do, and and it wasn't like I mentioned with my foot, it wasn't an ideal build up, but I think with a bit more run volume, I can like the six
Really
months
put it
leading
down.
up to it. What I hit that 18 miler I did in February. It was a high of 17 degrees on that run. Then I didn't run over 13 miles for the next 6 months. So anyway, with a
That's really
proper
impressive.
buildup,
Yeah.
yeah, with a proper buildup, I'm curious what I could do. But yeah, and I'll have to see where I do it. It definitely has to be an inspiring place and a place that will suit me. Like, which basically means like not an ocean swim, because at this point I like a rolling bike. I like a flat bike. I think my low CDA really helps. I'm starting to embrace that a bit, and and the run, I obviously the hillier the better, just because it would allow me to show my run skill or
Sure.
my run fitness. But if it's flat, then it's flat. It's fine.
Yeah. Interesting. Cool. Well, it'll be fun to follow your journey. We'll make sure to link everything as much as possible in the show notes. Best place for people to follow you, probably Instagram. Is there any other
Yeah,
things you want to push?
most update Instagram. Yeah,
Okay, cool. Well, we'll make sure to list it. But yeah, best of luck for, I guess, November, Los Cobos,
yeah. Los
and then
Cabos.
Los
Sí,
Cabos. Yeah.
sí,
Nice.
señor.
Yeah. I don't have a Spanish minor, so it's tough. Well, good deal. Well, thank you so much for jumping on. It's been super fun.
Yeah, thank you so much, Seth.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Stupid Questions with Nicole. It was a great honor. We had lots of fun. It was really cool to hear her story of how she started out with cross country running and then moving into the triathlon world. Looking forward to seeing how she does in her upcoming races here in November with Los Cabos. Yeah, just big again. Thank you to her for coming on. If you want to follow her, check out the show notes. We'll link her Instagram and everything there. Also, want to start mentioning if you guys want to help this podcast grow, I would ask that whatever platform you are on, please give it a, I don't know if it, like, a heart or a, what is it, a follow or a review. Would really appreciate that. It helps us grow. Also, go check out the podcast on YouTube as well if you'd like to follow it there. This episode is brought to you by Trek Shorts. Make sure to check them out as well. Cool guy starting that company, Conrad, who will, excuse me, not Conrad, Connor, who will be a professional triathlete before too long. Thank you guys so much for listening in, and we will see you in the next one.